300 men tried. The fastest lasted 6 seconds. The heaviest lasted 4. The prize was $100,000. The only rule? Survive 8 seconds. On the night of March 14, 1969, a 138-pound man in a gray linen shirt walked through a side door of the Civic Auditorium in San Francisco and sat in row 11, seat 9. He had no corner man. He had no trainer. He carried a folded program and a paper cup of water. What happened next lasted 7 seconds. People have described it for 30 years. The Civic Auditorium on Grove Street smells, in the hour before a crowd, like old pine resin and institutional cleaning fluid, the specific antiseptic odor of a building that has hosted too many events to remember any of them. The ceiling is 41 feet above the main floor. The rigging above the center ring is a geometry of iron and cable that does not move regardless of what happens below it. It is March 14, 1969. The time is 6:42 in the evening. Outside on Grove Street, traffic continues without interest. A cable car bell rings twice, 3 blocks north. A food cart vendor is packing his equipment for the night on the corner of Larkin. None of these things are aware of what is about to happen inside. The auditorium holds 3,200 people. By 7:10, it will hold 2,947. The seats are wooden and painted dark green, and the varnish on the armrests has worn smooth in the exact places where thousands of hands have gripped them over 30 years of performances, boxing exhibitions, and civic events. Tonight, the floor is covered in industrial gray canvas. The canvas is stained in 3 places near the center. The stains are dark and have been mopped but not removed. The temperature inside is 61 degrees Fahrenheit. The ventilation system produces a low, continuous hum in the key of E-flat. This hum has been there since 1938, and no one hears it anymore, except on nights when the crowd goes completely quiet. And on those nights, it sounds like something the building is trying to say. A single ring spotlight is already lit over the central canvas area. Under it, the gray mat brightens to the color of old bone. 14 feet outside the ring of light, everything is the ordinary dark of a large institutional space, not threatening, simply indifferent. The lighting technician in the booth above Section C has been doing this for 11 years and is eating a sandwich. There are 2 promoters' tables at ringside. On each table, a brass bell, a clipboard, a water pitcher, and an envelope. The envelope on the north table is thick. It has been there since 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It does not move. The audience begins to arrive at 6:55. They come in, the way people arrive for something they have heard about but not seen, quietly, in pairs, scanning the room before choosing their seats. Several of them have traveled from outside the city. A journalist from the Oakland Tribune is in row 7. A retired Army captain named Harold Frost is in row 3. A woman named Catherine Yee, who teaches mathematics at San Francisco State, is in row 14. She came because her student described what he had witnessed at the February exhibition in Los Angeles, and she could not determine whether the description was physically possible. She has a notepad. At 7:08, the ventilation hum is the only sound in the room. Then the far door on the south wall opens. Something changes in the air before anyone sees why. His name is Viktor Drel. He is 34 years old, 6 feet 4 inches tall, and weighs, as of that morning's scale reading at his hotel on Geary Street, 612 pounds. This is not a number that communicates itself immediately to the eye. The mind processes it in stages. The first stage is visual, a man of extraordinary width, moving through the south corridor doorway sideways, because the standard 32-inch frame does not accommodate the distance between his shoulders. The second stage is sound. His footsteps on the wooden floor do not clatter. They produce a low, resonant impact. Not loud, but felt in the sternum at 30 feet. The third stage is understanding. The floor is vibrating, not shaking, vibrating. A continuous low-frequency tremor that travels through the seat backs and up into the hands of everyone in the first 4 rows. Viktor Drel is not fat. This is the crucial distinction that separates the witnesses who understood what they saw from those who did not. He is a man who spent 11 years in the Soviet state wrestling program, then 4 more in private competition in Eastern Europe. And his mass is the accumulated result of what that kind of training produces at the extreme end of the physical spectrum. His hands at rest are larger than most people's faces. His neck is wider than his head. When he breathes normally, his chest expands by 7 inches. He walks to the center ring at 7:09. He does not look at the audience. He has no interest in the audience. His eyes move across the space with the specific, unhurried calculation of a man who has entered many rooms and has never found one that presented a problem. His record at this point is as follows: 300 challenges across 9 cities. 300 defeats. The average duration of each encounter, 4.3 seconds. The longest, a former British heavyweight named Colin Marsh, who lasted 11 seconds in Glasgow in December of 1967 and was carried from the building in a neck brace. The shortest, a man in Denver who stepped forward, made contact, and was on the floor before the crowd had finished drawing breath. That lasted 1.8 seconds. The terms of tonight's event are simple. They have been announced in flyers and in a quarter-page advertisement in the Chronicle since February 22nd. Any challenger who survives 8 consecutive seconds of physical contact with Viktor Drel wins $100,000 in cash. Confirmed by 2 independent witnesses, payable immediately from the envelope on the north table. Viktor Drel has never paid. The envelope has traveled with him to 9 cities. It has never been opened. At 7:11, Viktor reaches the center of the canvas and stops. He stands under the spotlight. He does not raise his arms. He does not speak. He simply stands, and the act of standing is by itself a kind of announcement. The light falls on him, and he absorbs it without reflection, the way very large dark objects absorb light, completely, without remainder. From the North Corridor, the event's promoter, a man named Sam Beckford, who has organized 17 such exhibitions and lost money on none of them, watches from the doorway. He has stood in this exact position at 9 previous events. He has the specific calm of a man who knows how this ends. Viktor Drel's preparation ritual lasts 4 minutes. He rolls his neck slowly, left to right, twice. He extends each arm to full horizontal spread, a wingspan of 7 feet, 2 inches, measured by a promoter's assistant in Dallas who did not believe the number until he used the tape himself. He makes no fist. He does not shadow box. He has, in 11 years of this, never needed to prepare in any way that required urgency. 3 earlier challengers had already been escorted out. A longshoreman named Torres from the port of Oakland. 220 pounds had approached at 7:04 for a preview warm-up bout, an informal arrangement Beckford sometimes permitted for crowd energy, and lasted 3 seconds before his legs decided they were finished. A wrestling instructor from Hayward lasted 4.7 seconds. A former Marine sergeant from Vallejo, who had won a regional judo championship in 1964, lasted 6 seconds and left the mat holding his right arm at an angle that suggested the bones in his forearm had reached a disagreement. The auditorium is quiet, not the quiet of boredom. The quiet of 2,947 people who have just arrived at the same understanding at the same moment. Viktor Drel is standing in the light. His expression has not changed since he entered the building. He is not angry. He is not proud. He is, in the most complete sense of the word, certain. The room belongs to him, completely. And then the side door on the west wall opens. One man in row 3, the retired Army captain Harold Frost, grips his armrest. He says nothing. He has seen this kind of posture before, but never on a man this size, and never matched by what is about to walk in. He enters through the west service door at 7:16. The door is the kind used by stagehands, low clearance, unlabeled. He passes through it without ducking, because he is 5 feet 7.5 inches tall and weighs 138 pounds, and the door was built for taller people than him. He is wearing gray linen trousers and a dark blue collarless shirt, untucked on, the left side. His shoes are plain leather, black with a low heel. He is carrying a folded program, the same one distributed at the door, and a paper cup of water, half full. He looks, at first inspection, like a man who arrived late and is searching for his seat. He finds row 11. He moves along the row without disturbing the people already seated, a practiced economy of movement, each step placed with a precision that produces no sound on the wooden floor. He reaches seat 9 and sits. He sets the paper cup on the armrest. He opens the program and reads it. He does not look at the ring. At ringside, Sam Beckford is scanning the auditorium with the practiced efficiency of a man managing a crowd. His gaze moves across the rows and stops at row 11. It stops for the specific reason that something is wrong with the picture. Not wrong in a dangerous sense, but wrong in the way a detail is wrong when it does not fit the pattern. Every other person in the auditorium is watching Viktor Drel. This man is reading the program. Catherine Yee, the mathematics professor in row 14, notices him for a different reason. She has spent the last 20 minutes observing the physical geometry of the challengers who approached, the weight distributions, the angles of approach, the specific ways in which a large human body being contacted by a larger one produces predictable trajectories of displacement. What she notices about the man in row 11 is the way he is sitting. His back is not touching the chair. His feet are flat on the floor with his weight distributed evenly across both. His arms rest on the armrests without gripping them. She will write in her notepad later, in a state of organized readiness that has no visible cause. At 7:22, the program coordinator, a young man named Dale with a clipboard, walks the aisle, asking for additional challengers. He reaches row 11 and stops. The man in seat 9 has not raised his hand. He has not looked up from the program. Dale moves on. The man closes the program at 7:24. He sets it on the armrest beside the paper cup. He looks for the first time at the ring. He looks at Viktor Drel the way you look at something you are trying to understand rather than something you are trying to assess. Calm and direct and carrying nothing that is not necessary. The woman 2 seats to his right leans toward her companion and whispers something. The man does not react. In row 3, Harold Frost has not released his armrest since the west door opened. He is watching the man in row 11 with the fixed attention of someone who has recognized something that the rest of the room has not yet seen. He will say, later, much later, to a journalist in 1974, that what he felt in that moment was not excitement. It was the specific dread of a man who understands that the thing he is watching is about to be instructive in a way that will not be comfortable. At 7:26, Dale returns to row 11. This time he stops and says something quietly to the man in seat 9. The man nods once. He hands Dale the program. He stands. He does not stretch. He does not crack his knuckles. He does not look around the room. He moves toward the aisle with the unhurried direct motion of someone walking to a meeting he scheduled himself. Dale announces the challenger's name to the room through a small handheld microphone. Bruce Lee. 2 worlds are now in one room. Neither of them has spoken to the other yet. In the ring of light, Viktor Drel has not moved. He is looking at the man walking toward him. His expression has not changed. But for the first time in 9 cities and 300 encounters, he is doing something he has not previously done. He is calculating. Bruce Lee steps onto the canvas at 7:27. The mat is 24 feet across. He walks to the center, not the edge. He stops 8 feet from Viktor Drel. He does not take a fighting stance. His arms hang at his sides, relaxed at the elbows, hands open. His feet are shoulder-width apart, not wider, not narrower, the body available for whatever the next moment requires. Viktor. Drel looks at him for 3 seconds. The size differential is, by this point in the evening, almost arithmetical. 612 pounds against 138, a ratio of 4.4 to 1. Viktor is 8 inches taller. His reach exceeds Bruce's by 19 inches. From the balcony section, the contrast produces the specific visual absurdity of a wrong answer, the kind of image the mind rejects because the numbers do not produce a result that makes sense. Sam Beckford has seen this before. He has seen smaller men approach Viktor in 6 of the 9 cities, and the result has been the same. The smaller man goes down faster because the body that is lighter has less to absorb the displacement and more distance to travel before the floor introduces itself. He is not worried. He is slightly bored. He is already thinking about the receipt from the Oakland hotel. Viktor speaks first. He speaks in English, which he learned in 1962 from a program instructor at the Soviet facility in Leningrad. His English is correct and without warmth. You understand the rules. It is not a question. Bruce Lee looks at him. There is a pause of 4 seconds. No hesitation. Measurement. Viktor steps forward at 1 pace. The floor registers it. He is accustomed to this effect and uses it the way a speaker uses a pause, deliberately, for meaning. The first 3 rows feel the vibration in their seatbacks simultaneously. Several people near the front instinctively grip their armrests. Viktor's logic for choosing this specific challenger, this undersized, unknown man in civilian clothes, is the same logic that has guided him through 300 previous encounters. The lighter the body, the shorter the engagement. He is not contemptuous of Bruce Lee. He has no information that would produce contempt. He is simply applying the pattern that has worked in 9 cities and never failed. Mass acts on mass. The smaller object moves. This is not cruelty. It is physics. He steps forward again. Now he is 5 feet from Bruce. The warmth coming off Viktor's body is perceptible at this distance. A specific animal heat, the kind produced by a very large organism at rest. He smells of liniment oil and something beneath it that is older and harder to name. Bruce does not step back. His expression does not change. His arms remain at his sides. Viktor raises one hand, not a strike, an approach, and moves it toward Bruce's shoulder. The warning in the gesture is clear. It is the gesture that precedes the engagement and communicates, "This is your last moment to reconsider." Bruce's voice is even. No elevation in pitch, no hurry. First warning, delivered clearly, witnessed by 2,947 people. Viktor pauses. He has not heard this before. Not in 9 cities. Not once. Every previous challenger has either lunged, retreated, or made some kind of aggressive preparatory movement. None of them has spoken. This specific calmness, the kind that does not contain fear or performance, produces, for the first time in Viktor Drel's career, a 1-second hesitation. Then his training reasserts itself. He has been in rooms with calm men before. Calm men fall the same way as frightened ones. He begins to close the distance. The crowd has stopped breathing. Catherine Yee in row 14 has stopped writing. Harold Frost in row 3 has been holding his breath for 11 seconds. The ventilation hum of the building fills the auditorium at E-flat. Because 2,947 people have gone completely silent and there is nothing left to compete with it. Bruce Lee speaks again. The same volume, the same register, the same pace. Viktor's right arm begins its extension toward Bruce's collar. This is the last moment in which the room contains the ordinary physics of the evening. What follows belongs to a different order of time. The arm is moving. The envelope on the north table has not been opened in 9 cities and 300 encounters. The building hums in E-flat. Outside on Grove Street, a cable car passes without stopping. Viktor Drel's right arm extends toward Bruce Lee's left collar at a downward angle of approximately 32 degrees. The arm weighs independently an estimated 47 pounds. At full extension, the grip it is designed to establish would close on cloth and flesh simultaneously, lock the shoulder joint, and use the combined leverage of Viktor's 612-pound frame to redirect the smaller body toward the floor. This technique had ended 300 previous engagements. It is not a complicated technique. It works because it does not need to be complicated. Mass acting on mass requires only direction and commitment. Every previous challenger had responded to it in one of 3 ways. They had grabbed back, which allowed Viktor to complete the lock. They had tried to step away laterally, which was too slow and moved them into a secondary grip position. They had braced, which simply transferred all of Viktor's momentum directly into their structure, and their structure was not sufficient to receive it. Bruce Lee does none of these things. He moves 4 inches to the right and 2 inches forward, not away from the arm, into the space beside it. The arm passes through where he was standing and finds nothing. The specific mechanical consequence of this is significant. A 47-pound arm traveling at speed designed to land and lock that lands. On nothing, carries Viktor's 612-pound frame forward by the precise amount that the intended resistance has been removed. Which is to say, Viktor moves. This takes 1.2 seconds. Viktor's recovery, the correction a trained body makes when a technique meets empty space, begins at 1.3 seconds. It is fast. It is the recovery of 11 years of training, and it is real. He reestablishes his base, turns 40 degrees, identifies Bruce's new position. The adjustment is technically sound. In any other encounter, it would have been sufficient. At 1.9 seconds, Bruce Lee's left foot makes contact with the canvas, 3 inches outside Viktor's right heel. Not a kick, a placement. The foot is there specifically at the specific moment that Viktor's weight is transferring to that side in recovery. The placement does not move Viktor. It occupies the space into which Viktor was already moving. Viktor's right ankle meets an immovable reference point at exactly the wrong moment in his weight transfer. The mechanical result is that 612 pounds traveling at recovery speed must redirect or compress. Compression is not available. Redirection requires a base that is no longer there. At 2.4 seconds, Viktor Drel's right knee contacts the canvas. The sound this produces travels through the floor and into the feet of everyone standing in the first 6 rows. It is not a crash. It is a deep, resonant concussion. The specific sound of a very large structure arriving at a surface it was not designed to meet. At 3.1 seconds, Bruce Lee's right hand makes contact with Viktor's left shoulder, not a strike, a direction. The pressure is lateral and applied for 0.4 seconds. It adds nothing to Viktor's downward momentum. It simply confirms a direction that is already established. At 3.7 seconds, Viktor Drel is on the canvas on his right side. His right arm is extended. His eyes are open. He is conscious. He is not injured in any way that will require a physician. He is, however, on the floor. And the floor is where he is. And 7 seconds have not yet elapsed. Bruce Lee is standing in the same position he occupied when Viktor's arm began its extension. His arms are at his sides. His expression has not changed. His shirt has not come untucked. At 7.0 seconds exactly, counted by Sam Beckford, by Catherine Yee, and by the journalist from the Oakland Tribune, who will compare notes afterward, and arrive at the same number. The brass bell on the north table rings once. The engagement, 7.0 seconds. Then the sound returns. Not applause, not at first. A low, collective exhalation. The specific sound of 2,947 people releasing breath they have been holding for different lengths of time and arriving together at the same moment of release. It sounds like wind moving through a building. It sounds like the room itself exhaling. Bruce Lee's position, exactly where he was. Expression, unchanged. Right hand returned to his side. He is looking at Viktor Drel with the same calm, direct attention he used when Viktor was standing. On the canvas, Viktor Drel is still. Not because he cannot move, because he is, for the first time in 11 years of competition, doing something that requires complete stillness, understanding. Viktor Drel lies on the canvas for 11 seconds. This is not incapacitation. Viktor has been in positions of physical disadvantage before. 11 years of training at the highest levels of Soviet wrestling produce men who are comfortable on the floor. He is on the canvas because he is doing something that his body has not previously required him to do in a competitive context. Reviewing the sequence of the last 7 seconds in exact anatomical detail, trying to locate the error. He cannot find it. This is the transformation. Not the physical event. Viktor has been on the floor before, in training, in practice bouts, in controlled settings where losing is temporary and information. What is different now is the absence of a correctable error. He did not move wrong. He did not grip wrong. His technique was sound. What happened was not a superior technique meeting his technique. What happened was that his technique met a different kind of problem entirely, one that his 11 years of training had not been designed to solve, because it was not designed to be solved by size or force or leverage. It was solved by geometry, and timing so precise that the solution occurred before he knew there was a problem. At 7:34, Viktor rises from the canvas. He stands. He takes 3 steps to the north edge of the mat and stops. He does not look at the crowd. He looks at Bruce Lee with the specific attention of a man trying to read a text in a language he does not speak. Sam Beckford is already moving toward the north table. He reaches it at 7:35. He picks up the envelope. He walks to the center of the mat and stands 6 feet from Bruce Lee. His expression is the expression of a man who has managed 17 exhibitions and has never before performed this action, and who is performing it now with the careful precision of someone executing a step they rehearsed but never expected to use. 301 challengers, Beckford says, to the room and to no one in particular. 9 cities. He extends the envelope toward Bruce. First time this has moved. Bruce Lee looks at the envelope for 2 seconds. Then he looks at Beckford. He picks up the paper cup from where he left it on the armrest of seat 9 in row 11. The cup still has water in it, perhaps 3 tablespoons cold now. He drinks it. He sets the empty cup on the edge of the seat. He moves along row 11 toward the west service door, the same door he entered through, stepping with the same practiced economy that produced no sound on the way in. He does not look back. The west service door opens and closes behind him at 7:36. Outside, on the service corridor that connects to the loading dock on Hayes Street, the temperature is 54 degrees. A delivery truck is idling at the dock. The driver is eating. The cable car on the McAllister line passes the intersection at the end of the block. The city is continuing without acknowledgement of what just happened inside. Inside the auditorium, for 8 full seconds after the door closes, there is no sound at all. Then 2,147 people begin talking at once. In row 14, Catherine Yee looks at her notepad. She has written 3 lines. The first is a number, 7.0. The second is a word she has underlined twice, geometry. The third line is a question she wrote and cannot answer. Where did the force go? In row 3, Harold Frost releases his armrest. The varnish on it is darker where his hand has been. He sits for a moment without moving. Then he turns to the man beside him, a stranger, a man he has never met, a man wearing a hardware store jacket, and says something to him. The stranger nods. They do not speak again. They do not need to. Viktor Drel leaves San Francisco by train on March 16th, 2 days later. He does not schedule another exhibition. He returns to a small city in West Germany where he has been living since 1965. He tells the story of March 14, 1969 to people who ask about his career, and several people who don't. He tells it without embellishment and without bitterness. He tells it the way you tell a story that taught you something you cannot fully explain, with the specific care of a man who wants to get the details right because the details are the point. He tells this story for the rest of his life. The envelope from the north table sits in Sam Beckford's filing cabinet in his office on Market Street for 4 years, until he moves his operation to Las Vegas in 1973. He throws out most of his old event files. He keeps the envelope. The canvas from the Civic Auditorium is rolled up and stored in a basement on March 15th. The 3 dark stains near the center are, for the first time, joined by a 4th, a small compressed area where Viktor Drel's right knee met the mat, 6 inches inside the spotlight circle, at 2.4 seconds into an engagement that lasted 7.0 seconds and opened an envelope that had traveled through 9 cities and 301 challengers and never once been touched before this night.